DARKSIDE, Nothing album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from DARKSIDE, the initial duo of Mr. Nicholas Jar as well as Dave Harrington. They've been added under the DARKSIDE name now from the early 2010s and way back when they dropped their Psychic debut and honestly took off pretty quickly. Now I will say this, the album I've thought at least over the years is not an easy one to digest. It's one that you need to turn your thinking cap on for. It's funky, it's sleazy, it's sexy, and it really doesn't have much of a form to it. As a matter of fact, I've always thought that DARKSIDE really created their own unique niche on their debut. I will say though, if you consider yourself a fan of any sort of modern electronic music, it's something you should listen to. And we wouldn't hear from them for another 8 years, as a matter of fact, under the DARKSIDE name with 2021 Spiral, which I liked. It's just as formless and indescribable, and it has a hell of an atmosphere on this thing. But I will say this, it's not as much of a gut punch. It's not as much as a you need to hear this moment like their debut was. Now, this is their first album since then, and they are now a trio bringing in Talakiel Esparza for this album. And let me tell you, I've actually been really curious to hear this thing. They've been dropping some pretty funky singles lately. Let's chat about it. This album starts off with Slau, and let me tell you, it is a very pensive start. You need to sit with it, but these three are absolute masters of letting their sound grow. This one creeps along super slowly. It's got some very eerie synths floating through the background. It also has this overall very dreary, very sorrow-filled atmosphere that does grow quite a bit as this track rolls on. It gets under your skin in a way that I didn't expect as well. And honestly, this is the kind of track that excites me. This is a great intro for the album because it just makes me want to dive headfirst into their world. Throw in some very ghoulish vocals floating through the background and throw in some haunted vocals floating through the background and some swagger that I didn't expect, and you have a hell of an intro track. Love this thing. There's also S.N.C, which dropped as a single a while back, and let me tell you, it's probably the track that I've listened to the most on this record, especially single-wise. I mean, let me tell you, this is a pretty funky album for the most part, to an extent that I didn't expect it would be, and this single really spells it out. The sleek bass and the freakish groove, it is all gravy. And it's an interesting cut because DARKSIDE do such a great job of letting this track breathe and grow on its own, but also keeping it focused. I love the ghoulish vocals and the sampling once again. Also, that bass riff will have your toe tapping. This track just builds itself up brick by brick, and I salute it. It's an odd one, but it is really stunning. Are You Tired? Keep On Singing was also a single. This one took a little bit longer to grow on me. It's probably the most formless cut that we've heard so far. I mean, this thing legitimately sounds like it was recorded in another dimension. And it's probably the track that you have to sit with the most on this record, but man, once that glistening bass riff comes in, man, it just gets so funky out of nowhere. And yeah, it's an off-kilter weirdo funk, but it'll definitely get that toe tapping. I really love the vocals as well, which are bizarre and warped and alien sounding, but also have a genuine amount of emotion. It's a freaky cut, but this is a freaky album. Also really love Graucha Max. It's one of the most urgent cuts that you're going to hear on this record, which is odd to say, but I stand by it. The beat is noisy and formless, as are the vocals, much more abrasive on this cut. And that's leaving out these intense drums and almost ragtime-inspired pianos. They are throwing a lot at us. It's exciting, and yeah, it's heady and hard to keep track of, and you may need a few listens, but it's still very exciting. And honestly, for me at least, it's great to hear the trio playing with some serious urgency. I'm all for it, just don't be surprised when your hips start swaying. Also, really love American references, probably my favorite deep cut here. There just seems to be more and more and more influences going into DARKSIDE's music with each release. This one is no different, with some Spanish sung vocals as well as some really warm rhythms. And it's not the flashiest or wildest cut here, but man, when they lock in on that meditative groove, it's spicy. This track gets so hypnotic, so fast, I can't look away. Now, I will say this. Sadly, I feel like the trio does get a little sloppy with its final moments, like Hell Sweet Part 1. This is kind of just, I don't know, just kind of here. It's a heady mishmash of sounds, and I mean, from the DARKSIDE's perspective, that could be really exciting from a distance, but this just sounds mangled. It's one of the more misguided cuts here, and just plain surreal at times. Like, there's elements of this cut that sound kind of regal and explosive, but it's just not coming together for me. It's a mess, honestly, and this is the kind of track that I worry that we're going to hear more and more from DARKSIDE. And Sin El Sol, No No Hay Nada as a finale. I don't know, it's just kind of a letdown. Like, this track has a hell of a frame to it. There's elements of this cut that I really do enjoy. The pacing is sharp, the synths are really, really nice. And then it just kind of meanders for a while. A couple of vocals pop in, a couple of guitars, but nothing really grips me. And I always hate that, especially this late in the record. But outside of that, I mean, it's for their first project as a trio, I'm certainly open to hearing more. This is a really interesting and funky neo-psych and electronic record. Like, Heavy is good for this later on in the record. This track is so unique. It's one of the spacier and more laid-back sounding cuts of the bunch. Like, there's been so much tension and freaky urgency so far. It's nice to hear the trio just let some room to breathe in. And it's by far the dreamiest cut here. It's really nice to just get lost in. It's really sobering as well, and just a great experiment in sound play. And Hell Sweet Part 2 was released as a single, and I do still enjoy it. It's pretty damn classy, pretty damn haunted as well. Not only that, but once again, it's just so easy to get lost in. A lot of these tracks are. And Hell Sweet Part 2, by its finale, might just be the most human cut here. Yeah, I really do enjoy this album overall. I mean, these three are just so freaking talented and so much in the masterclass of their own as far as production and sound play and playing goes. I mean, yeah, for their debut record as a trio, yeah, this is a hell of a great debut. It's not perfect, and yeah, they do drop the ball and get a little sloppy and kind of break my hopes in the final leg of the journey, but yeah, absolutely count me in for more of this. I'm feeling a very strong 7 on this one, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.